I'm actually also anticipating a technology which isn't quite there, but will be in about a year. Right now with iChat, you can have up to 4 people in a conversation, but I think that will basically be in an MSN sort of situation where you can have, a whole community of people, and then you sort of pick who you want to actually have, visual contact with. But it's, it's quite. I just don't think we're used to being that close, and I don't think we're designed to be that close ultimately. Yeah.
There's one thing I can't quite understand yet is really the status of Lebanon in the film, because it seems like there's a tension between the narrative about the couple, which is obviously fictionalized, and that's I think the central focus, and then a kind of documentary history and sort of presented that way to the son about Lebanon, which seems at times to be quite, how should I say, exoticized, and probably to serve the relationship. It's made more strange, sort of in a Passage to India kind of way. You'll never understand this kind of thing. It's so different from us. I sort of found the election thing all that way. And I'm sort of wondering how much it's really about Lebanon. And then there are other times when it's really plays documentary, like about the camps. And so and then also about the boys having sex. Mm-hmm. Sort of about with your question too. There are a lot of places in North America where kids be beat up if they got caught having sex. Mm-hmm. And so, there's something about there's something exotic about the locale, but then so that exoticism, I think, undercuts the documentary historical quality.
Yeah.
See what I'm wondering? I'm not quite.
Yeah,
sure
I do think that there's a whole side of the country that I couldn't even broach, which is, let's say, the status of the Druze, right? That's a whole other, which is genuinely quite mysterious in terms of how they function in that culture. And let's say, when I was near a Beit el-Din, with the tiles, and that area is very much in the middle of Druze sort of territory, and there are. I'm an outsider, I think, is what it comes down to. So I cannot implicate myself as someone who understands that place. I'm trying to get a quick read. And I don't even know if Arsene can understand that place anymore. Even though she was raised there, it's a fundamentally different place than the place that she grew up in. So we're both, somewhat outside what that place is actually about. We have glimpses, but I would say even the community that we were living with, the Armenian community, is a little outside the mainstream as well. It is unusual that she was raised in West Beirut, because that's most Armenians would be in East Beirut. So she had an unusual upbringing, but the vestiges of that are not really there anymore. So, it was a quick read. We were not, and I think, the amazing thing about a camera lens, I keep saying this, but it has a very, very high sensitivity to everything that's going on behind the camera. So it's not just, what it's literally recording, but, what is actually being thought of by the person who's actually transcribing that. So, in my mind, there was always this sense that, we're not really here long enough to get a full sense of what's going on. And a lot of what I'm talking about is stuff that's applied later on through my research. It's not done through, if you will, first-hand account. So it's severely compromised as a documentary. But again, I think it's serving, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm very cautious about letting it out. Because I think that especially after I finished it and after Lebanon exploded again, the last thing I wanted was that people look at this and go, oh, that's what the country's about. It's not, really. It's way more complicated than what is being presented even here. I don't think anything that the film says is untrue in terms of the politics of the place, and that's been confirmed. But there are ideas and essential parts of it that have been left out, only because once you go there, it becomes that much more complicated to actually explain. But that's a very good point. I think that's one of the reasons why I've been very cautious about showing it. Yeah.
In a way, thank you for showing the film with us. In a way, what you have done by showing it to us and framing it the way you did up front is kind of run a miniature social experiment about factuality and the reception of film presented with documentary codes. And I wondered on those occasions when you have shown it, what you've found most surprising or interesting about its reception. Particularly, I mean, because that kind of began with you saying this is a forbidden letter, so to speak, and then later saying, well, that's part of the dramatic device. I mean, the drama begins the moment you stand up and say, I'm showing you a home movie that was never really meant for an audience, right? But yeah, I just wonder what you've learned as a result of running what I'm calling a sort of little experiment, especially when that experiment calls into question your reliability as a narrator, playing yourself.
Well, what I found most shocking is the orthodoxy of the documentary community. I mean, I think that there have been a number of documentarians that have been really upset about the film because it seems there are certain codes that it breaks. And I don't quite get that, because it seems that every documentary does that to an extent. And I'm still, maybe just because I am a dramatist, I'm still not quite sure where that line is. But I know that I've had some very heated discussions with individuals. For instance, one of the reasons why, I mean, there's certain things that I've actually, had to address because of, the nature of some of those concerns from close friends of mine. So that's been interesting. As a matter of fact, I could say I've had more heated discussions about this amongst that small circle of friends than I've had in regards to any of my feature films. Like people getting really upset about it. That's what I've learned. That there is a real code that doesn't exist in the dramatic community. Because I think that it's just, you never, notions of who and how a film might be irresponsible don't come up in the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have a similar reaction